And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another edition of the Morphinominal Hockey Show. It is I, Mike, as always, and joining me this week, he is the Ottawa Senators correspondent, writer, coverage for Hockey Hot Stove. He covers the Ottawa Senators. Yeah, he does it all. Mr. Murray Pam. Murray, welcome to the show.
Hi, great to be here on an American Thanksgiving.
Yes. And ironically, was an American who does not celebrate Thanksgiving. So,
well, as a Canadian, I'm going to say, here's my Ottawa Senators gravy boat. You can see for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I have my Capitals 50th anniversary one on my bookcase over there somewhere. Can't see it with all the Ovies behind me right now.
There you go.
But with that, real quick, the Morphinominal Hockey Show is brought to you by Cool Hockey. You like the jerseys you see me wearing on the show? Head over to the official NHL jersey retailer for the show and TXHT Hockey. Use our exclusive link of coolhockey.com/TXHT. Again, that is coolhockey.com/TXHT. And order your NHL jersey today. So Murray, we're going to hop right into, or before we get into it, I do need to issue an apology to my listeners/viewers because last week we were supposed to have a PWHL preview show. It did not happen. Things fell through with the guests, so I do apologize. I don't like going 2 weeks without an episode. It's just the way it happened. But don't worry, in 2 weeks I'll have Rachel Donner of Hockey Hot Stove on the show. We'll be doing a 2-week recap for the first 2 weeks of the season, and doing maybe some little bit more previewish stuff that I originally wanted to talk about last week. So I do apologize for that, but we are planning on a guest in 2 weeks, and I'm going to be working on getting player interviews on the show. I'm going to try every week. I can't promise that part, though. So with that, Murray, the Ottawa Senators. Big announcement yesterday for the Ottawa Senators. We were recording this, obviously, as we said already, on Thanksgiving, that Brady Tkachuk is coming back to the lineup tomorrow, Black Friday, as it's known here in the States. How big is that for the Ottawa Senators, especially the fact that they've actually been doing pretty well these last 6 weeks without their captain in the lineup?
Oh, they certainly have. They've actually gone 11-5-4 without Brady in their lineup. And there was a bit of a bump when he was first out. I think the team went 1 out of 3 or 4 games. But
well, I know the second game they annihilated my team.
There you go. They did. They did. It was 7-1, wasn't it?
It was 7-1, and that was Ovechkin's 1500th game too. That's correct. It's like
that's correct. Actually, the Senators had back-to-back 7-goal games because the game prior to that they scored 7
It was
against
after
Boston.
that. It was after the game against Washington.
The game after.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Got my games mixed up, but they did score back-to-back 7. And
then they lost 7-0 to Chicago the following game after that. So there's a lot of 7s there for the Senators for a moment.
They did. And ironically, that's the last time they gave up more than I think 3 or 4 goals in regulation since then. And they've been on a roll since then. They've only actually lost 3 games in regulation since that Chicago game in 6 weeks, which is incredible right now. But it was a big announcement yesterday. We kind of knew it was coming. Brady has been obviously skating for a good 2-3 weeks, pretty hard right now. So it was just a matter of getting his hand, back to, I guess, his back to his strength. And he's been working on stick handling and shooting the last 2-3 weeks. So he's been able to do that. He says there's no issues, and he's also started to try to take some faceoffs also in the last few days of practices. So with that, I mean, it's going to be a huge boost to the team. And he was kind of targeting this game in St. Louis because it's also his hometown and his front of his friends and family. So it's a big deal for him, and it's a big deal for the team. And interestingly enough, the team is actually having dinner, Thanksgiving dinner at the Kachuk's house this evening. So as a group, which is I would like to be a fly on the wall to dinner. It'd be a lot of fun, I would assume.
I
And
think we'll
but
find out
yeah,
soon enough on that new
I
podcast
think
that
we
Brady and Matthew are doing now, which we'll talk about in a
exactly,
little bit. So
exactly. But yeah, I mean, obviously there's going to be a huge infusion in the lineup. But sometimes, as you know, when players are out of the lineup, sometimes it takes 2, 3 games to get back in, to hit their stride. And as well, also uh, being out the lineup for so long, 20 games, then your lines are going to be jumbled again, once again. And so you're going to have to, Travis Green will have to find some chemistry elsewhere because Brady's probably going to slide in with Tim Stützle, probably Drake Batherson on the right side. We're not sure yet, but again, and then downwards, obviously, it affects the rest of the line. So that's something again that the players will have to get used to and find that chemistry once again. So it could take, 2, 3 games to get back into it. So, and they're also still in the midst of this 7 game road trip, and they have 3 games left on this road trip. Obviously, they were out in California. They did the California trip, 3 games. They were in Vegas. You got St. Louis, Dallas, and in
Montreal.
this, and yeah, I was going to say in a strange twist, they're going to play close to home on their 7th game of the road trip before actually coming home in Montreal.
Well, it's interesting you say that because the Capitals are playing the Toronto Maple Leafs tomorrow on Black Friday, or for those listening today on Black Friday, as we release this on at noon on Friday. Um, but then the Capitals on Sunday, they go on a 4 game road trip, but their first game is on Long Island before they go out to California for the California trip.
Yeah, see,
So it's
some of it
always
does make
kind of
sense.
weird how they schedule it sometimes like that. So
Yeah, and that's actually I've heard that from a lot of teams this year. When Calgary was in Ottawa, they had a strange trip. Edmonton, the staff was saying that their trip was odd. So I mean, I think it's just around the league, especially with that month-long break in February. So they're just trying to fit everything in any way they can at the moment, especially trying to fill open dates in arenas, I guess.
yeah, I know with the Capitals, last month they did a road trip and they were in Tampa, then they went to Carolina, then they went to the Panthers, and then they came home. It was
Hmm.
like, but normally when you do this trip, you're Tampa, Florida, then Carolina, come home. And
Right.
then
And
actually, even on the California trip, I believe the Caps are playing LA, and then the very next night, San Jose, and then 2 days later, Anaheim.
well, the Senators just did the same thing.
Yeah,
So
and it's like
basically
this makes no sense,
in
you know?
reverse, they did Anaheim, San Jose, and then back to LA. So
Yeah,
as well
it,
just now. So
it's very confusing.
it is.
But we can thank this stupid Olympic break for causing these issues.
Exactly.
It's been very made clear on this show, so it's not a shock to anybody. I am adamantly against the Olympic break. I'm against the players going. It's bad business for the NHL overall because it has never done anything positive for the NHL. It's been proven.
Yeah.
There's only two
Uh,
times they've had a
peop
little bit of bump. Twice. That was
yeah.
2002 in Salt Lake City and 2010 in Vancouver. Every other one, especially the overseas ones, have not done a single bump in viewership or interest for the NHL.
Yeah. I like seeing best on best um when possible. But again, yeah, with the long break, it just you kind of have that stop in the season and you just kind of hang out and go, oh, and then you try to remember exactly where you were and what you were doing and when they get back. And also there's also that risk of injury. I think,
Just ask the Islanders
yeah,
when they had John Tavares
well,
that
I'll give
year.
you
They're
the
in a playoff. They're in a playoff position, and then Tavares got it, blew out his knee. Islanders are out of the playoffs.
well, I have just another one too. 2006, Dominic Hasek, best
Oh
goalie
yeah.
in the NHL, Ottawa Senators. They were on a roll. They were driving to the playoffs. They probably were cup bound, or they were a Stanley Cup contender at that point in time. They lost Dominic Hasek, and they flamed out in the playoffs, and that was it. They lost him for the whole season. And the next year, well, they didn't have Hasek though, but the next year with that same team with Ray Emery, they went to the Stanley Cup Finals. So who knows what they would have done in 2006?
Yeah, yeah. It's a lot of risk and not much reward when we look at it. And then when you bring in Four Nations and you saw how McDavid kind of came out, even though he never admitted it, came out banged up out of that tournament. Obviously, Matthew Tkachuk was badly injured from the tournament. I think Brady might have been beaten up coming out of the tournament.
He was.
Yeah, like you had all these guys, particularly on Team Canada and Team USA, who were so
Well,
beat up from that
yep.
tournament because they really went into it. That negatively affected some teams.
Well,
Going,
Shea Theodore too broke
yeah,
his wrist, did he not? And
and then
then
Alex Pietrangelo
and Mac,
for
yeah,
Vegas. Yeah,
yeah, McAvoy,
yeah.
another
It's
one. So
so yeah.
it's tough.
I can go on to another rant about the Four Nations, but I'll save that for another time because
Hmm.
that wasn't as successful as people made it out to be. Uh, Great short-term success, not long-term. Um, but going back to the Senators, obviously, what are some things that you're hoping for? Are you hoping maybe like you mentioned 2 to 3 games, for
Yeah,
Brady coming in? It could be. Are you kind of hoping that maybe it's better, like the way when Ovechkin last season he broke the leg in Utah, missed 16 games, and then comes back and he just picks up like he did it, never missed a beat. Or do you actually think it could, especially the fact that you said that he's been practicing the last 2 3 weeks, he's been really working on stick handling. He just started doing face-off practice. That maybe that's more of a better scenario for the Sounders that he can just hop right in and
yeah, I think
like he
he's
never missed a beat.
yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. Um, because he has been working out. He actually was being on the ice 6 days after his surgery, work doing power skating. So he says he's basically probably in better condition than he has been in a long time, just due to that. He's been able to skate, and he's done so much more skating in the last month than he probably ever has done, you know. And but I'm more concerned about the rest of the team. And now you're taking away maybe some chemistry that was built over time with him gone to put him in the lineup. Obviously, you want him in the lineup, and he has to be in the lineup. So there's no argument about that. But it's just going to see how the rest of the team plays, you know, and with the chemistry involved. That's I think this the is the main concern. I think the power play will be much improved. They were top five in the power play, I believe, when he was injured. They've slipped now. They're down to about I think 11 or 12. They've only scored, I think, 4 goals in the last high 20s, mid 20s chances on the power play. So there's something that obviously he's going to help them, and they'll probably get back up there eventually. So there's one thing that they'll improve upon, and obviously the scoring as well. Obviously he's a 30 goal scorer. So you're basically adding a 30 goal scorer from scratch into the lineup again. So there's that as well, which is, you know, it's always a good thing.
Yeah. Um, I want to shift real quick to goaltending. I want to talk about
Hmm.
Linus Ullmark.
Hmm.
Compared to how he played last season, how his playoffs went, and how he's playing now, how would you rate Ullmark right now?
Okay. Well, Linus started slow last season. Obviously he was a bit banged up, but he was slow out of the gate. Eventually he was able to turn his season around, and he did quite well. He helped get him into the playoffs last season. He had some good playoff games, some bad, but obviously they got to the playoffs. And this season again, he started slowly, slowly in training camp. Admittedly, too, he was self-admitted, like, hey, I have been trying to my best, and the start of the season again quite slow. But we'll go to the last 7 games. He hasn't allowed more than 3 goals. Yeah, I think he hasn't allowed more than 3 goals a game, I don't believe, in regulation in the last 7 starts. So there's that as well. So he seems to have turned his game around from the beginning of the season. And Travis Green actually said that last night as well. He said the last 4 or 5 games, Linus has been excellent. And I had toothpicks going there last night, but they're in Vegas, and it
That
ended up
that
winning
bounce in
it.
the third period was
Yes,
crazy.
exactly. So
That
I
that
mean,
was such a crazy bounce.
yeah, I mean he stood up in the third period. They were obviously they looked like a tired team last night in the third period. Obviously, they were up 3-1, but you could see Vegas was just coming, coming, coming. And when they actually got to the tie, that's when you saw Linus. He really stood tall in the net after that. He made that breakaway stop on Eichel. That was crucial in the last few minutes of the game. And and also the shootout. He this is something that I wrote on last night was that he's been in three shootouts this season. He's yet to allow a goal, which is which is
Impressive.
something. It is impressive. He stopped all 7 shots that he's faced. And there's a podcast, the Locked On Senators podcast today, posted a stat which I was totally unaware of. He's actually the number one goalie in save percentage in NHL shootouts all time,
Hmm.
which I was completely not aware of, which is an interesting stat.
Yeah, that's a good stat. And you had mentioned the
Hmm.
playoffs. He had some good games, he had some bad. It was kind of the same deal with him in Boston as well.
Hmm.
Had some good games, had some bad as well. It he did an interview with Daily Faceoff today, and one of the things that has been coming out the last, like, I guess, week or two, and it was touched on in this interview, was about his desire to play for Sweden in the Olympics. Do you think him playing for Sweden in the Olympics could give him that confidence boost that he needs to be a better playoff goaltender?
For sure, for sure. I mean, that's his goal, and to be dialed in. And right now, he is dialed in, and if he wants to reach that, obviously there was a bit of controversy at the Four Nations where he obviously at that point where anyway, but at the Four Nations where I don't did he not get that invite right away?
I
He
don't
didn't get the
remember.
yeah, but he ended up getting in there, I believe, and then
Yeah,
but
because I think it
I
might have
think
been Philip Gustafson that I think they might have gone with as the number one.
right.
Yeah.
He did get in. He got in a game, I believe, at the Four Nations, but there was a lot of was he going to be in consideration or not? It was a kind of an odd situation, but he's dialed in. He wants to be at the Olympics, so I think Linus is goal oriented, and I think if he has his mind made up, I think with that goal, he can definitely help the Ottawa Senators, obviously, and they also have Levi Marilainen back there as well, who's actually doing quite well as well. So they got a great tandem. Levy's stretch last year where he got those 3 shutouts as well, just coming into the league and in an injury situation when Allmark wasn't there. So that was really good. And this year he had that one poor start. He was the starter in Chicago, which was his first start. We allowed 7 goals, but since then he's had 4 starts and he let in 3 goals once and 2 goals, yeah, three each of the 3 other games. So I think I think the tandem's fine moving forward, and goaltending won't isn't a question. I think with the Ottawa Senators now, I think they're also ninth, I believe, now in goals against average in the league, which is good because in the first, I think, opening 3 weeks, I think they were like bottom, so they moved all the way up to ninth. So I mean, the goaltending is not not a problem in Ottawa.
Yeah. So, real quick, we're going to transition to a couple other things real quick. But before we do, the Morphinominal Hockey Show is also brought to you by Oats Overnight. When we're on the go but still need breakfast, Oats Overnight is the healthy on the go breakfast choice for the show and TXHT Hockey. Use our exclusive link in the description on both txhthockey.com and in the YouTube show description to try Oats Overnight today. Um, I had strawberries bananas yesterday. It was delicious. Go get some. Um, um, so like I said, we're going to transition briefly. You had mentioned like goals against average, how it's got like
Mhm.
overall. Let's talk about parity. There is so
Yeah.
much parity in the NHL right now. Like I've talked about this with Bill Meltzer, I've talked about this with Ted Starkey, you know, and a few others. And the parity is absolutely insane right now in the NHL. Like I have the standings up in front of me, and I have it by division. In the
Mhm.
Atlantic Division, you have the Tampa Bay Lightning first with 30 points. Ottawa's in second with 28 points. At the bottom, it's Buffalo with 22. And then in seventh, it's the Toronto Maple Leafs with 23. That's still an 8 point gap between the first place team and the eighth place team in the Atlantic Division. A couple wins. that for the Buffalo Sabres and a couple losses by the Lightning, and you now have a flip scenario right there.
Mm,
And then in the Metropolitan Division, right now the Devils are in first place with 31 points, and the New York Rangers are in eighth place with 26 points. That's a 5 point differential between first and eighth place in the division. We're not even going to talk about the Central and the Colorado Avalanche because they're just
mhm.
insane right now.
They're a wagon. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They're a wagon right now. We're not going to talk about Colorado, but you see that also in the Western Conference where there's all this parity, maybe with the exception of like St. Louis and Calgary and Nashville. Like they're kind of like the outliers in this scenario. But what is your thought on how this season has been playing out so far? Because especially like, there's always the thing about with American Thanksgiving, this is the barometer of whether a team is going to make the playoffs or not. But with this type of parity, what can we say about that?
Yeah. I think definitely in the East, where you're looking at the parity, I think the Buffalo Sabres are probably the only team right now who probably doesn't have the horses, let's say, to get there. But every other team probably does almost to get, so I think there's going to be some drop off, I think, at some point for some of the teams just naturally. But right now, the season, I think, well, let's take a look at the Florida Panthers. They're not in a playoff spot. Um, they have so many injuries right now. I mean, when the players do return, are they gonna be too far down to get back up? We don't know. Same with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Obviously, they're just getting the Matthews back right now, and Knives back. So are they going to be able to go on a run? They got to win last night. They eked out a win, but maybe on a game they probably shouldn't have. But the parity, and I wrote about this as well the other day, is that you could win one game, like the Ottawa Senators. I said you can win one night and you be in second place. The next night you might be out of the playoffs if you lose. It's as you're just discussing, it's that close, right?
I
So,
mean,
and
it
it has
happened
been
last
adjusted.
night. It happened last
It
night for the
actually,
Capitals. The
yeah,
Capitals won, and now they're third place of the division.
and I believe that,
When they
yeah,
went into the game, they're actually, I think, in fifth place or
I believe
fourth
that
place.
happened Saturday. I believe that happened on with the game against LA with the Senators. They dropped out of the playoffs when they were up and around second place as well, and they came back right up again. It's it's good for the game, to be honest. It's good for the fans to follow their teams. And um,
Have that
I know
hope.
Gary Bettman would have made it parity with the salary cap, but this is really one of the first years that I've seen that the teams are all even. They're all most of them are spending to the cap or as much as they can, and there's not much separation at all right now. So all it takes, like you said, is one good run or one bad run, and you're in or you're out. And I think this is going to go on all season for now. I think it's going to go on all season. It's going to be exciting for the playoff races for sure. But to
So what
put
you're saying is
one,
that we're gonna have a lot of stressed out hockey fans in a lot of markets this
I
season.
I think so. And also, and we were also discussing this with Steve Staios just maybe a couple of weeks ago. Um, it's going to be hard to make trades, to be honest, especially at the trade deadline, closer to the trade deadline. So if you want to make trades, you might want to do it now. Because the trade deadline, you could have as many as a dozen teams playing for 8 spots, and you never know on a given night where you're going to be. So you might have to strike early while you can, because later on it actually might be harder to do.
Well, we know the Vancouver Canucks have put out a notice saying that, hey, let's talk about some of our veterans. So we know at least one team who's potentially going to be a seller, and possibly a much sooner than a lot of people think too.
Exactly, exactly. Vancouver's probably going to jump ship. There's a lot of players there that, um, I know Brock Besser just signed a deal, but I think he might have a bit of a no trade. I'm not sure. You got guys like that. There's
I know
always going to be those.
Kiefer Sherwood
Sure,
has been
Sherwood's on
mentioned.
his.
Connor Garland
Yep,
has been
Connor
mentioned.
Garland keepers. Yep, and then um, also there's going to be these Quinn Hughes rumors. They're never going to go away.
He's going to the Devils. We already know
He's
it. It's
going to
like
the Devils. He's going to Detroit. Going to the Devils. He's going
yeah,
somewhere.
yeah. I didn't hear
He's
that.
probably.
So it's funny you mentioned Detroit just now about Quinn Hughes, and the funny thing
Mhm,
about that is it didn't dawn on me because I don't dig so deep into the players' lives and all this other stuff.
mhm.
But somebody fears like, oh, well, if he goes to Detroit,
Hmm.
then the other two Hughes can find their way to Detroit eventually because now they're closer to home and all this other stuff.
Exactly.
And I was like, oh, I didn't figure that. I just kind of figured he'd just go to New Jersey because that Luke just
They're
has
right there.
that 7 year contract now, and Jack I
Hmm.
think has like 5 more years on his deal or something. So it's like,
Yeah.
so you kind of
Yeah.
figure New Jersey's the shoe in on that one. But then when
They
Detroit got thrown
probably,
out there in the reason, I was like, oh, that kind of makes sense
well, it's
too.
because of their ties to Detroit and to Michigan, obviously.
Yeah,
Um, but again, does New Jersey even, well, they might have actually the assets to get Quinn, but see what they would have to do to get him. But also, if he's traded, let's say this year, he's not gonna come with an extension.
yeah,
So
because he's got like what 2 years left on his
he's still
deal.
got 2 years left on his
Yeah.
deal. So if you're not, let's say you're not New Jersey, or let's say Detroit, for example, because he's at home, um, there's a huge risk involved in trading for him.
Yeah. Because
So the
that after
Ottawa's,
those two
yeah,
years, he could just be like, well, I'm going to go be with my brothers now after those two
exactly,
years. So,
exactly.
um, and then real quick, we had alluded to it earlier, wanted to bring it up. Brady and his brother Matthew are doing the Wingmen podcast. Third episode came out yesterday. What are your thoughts on the brothers doing the podcast, and how involved are the Senators, the Panthers, and the league on the podcast, being how they're currently active NHL players?
Um, I I think the podcast, first of all, let's start off. I think it's good for I guess for the NHL. It brings attention, and there's a lot of fans, I guess, casual NHL fans who may have just watched the Four Nations, or they're fans of just U.S. hockey, that kind of thing, and maybe they watch at playoff time, so they saw Matthew Tkachuk. These guys have big personalities, and I think it brings um, character, I guess, to the sport, because hockey's kind of one of those sports where there's a lot of, not say vanilla, but there's a lot of vanilla personalities, as you know, I guess,
Well, I wouldn't
in
call it vanilla. I would call it more
but
guarded.
okay,
It's more. I definitely get the vibe that it's more guarded on a lot of things when it comes to
yeah,
hockey.
you could use that term, but again, these guys want to put it out there, and they just want to talk hockey and make it fun and enjoyable for everyone, and just talk about their experiences. And I think the league, I think, um, I don't know personally what, how the league feels about it, but I think they probably have to put their stamp on it that it's okay, because they want to bring their sport into the forefront, and just for popularity's sake across I guess more so across the United States rather than Canada, because Canadians live, breathe hockey every day, so it's just one of those things, right? And for the Ottawa Senators and the Florida Panthers, I don't think neither team minds it. I think also it brings more fans, and maybe tries to get a bigger fan base towards the Ottawa Senators, knowing that Brady's there. If you like what he has to say and you like his play on the ice, that might actually bring them more fans that they haven't had before. Same thing with merchandising, all that kind of thing that
Yeah.
you can bring to the forefront. So I think it is a good thing. And Brady, actually, they were just speaking on the Zoom call about it today a little bit, and the way he says he's set up, it depends on the day they actually do the podcast. So he's set up at home, and he also has a setup. He says he's in a suitcase. They can pop up in a hotel room. So he says it's not a big deal, that they can just find their own time for both of them. Fortunately, right now Matthew is injured, so they can work it around it. And when they're
Yeah.
both playing, though, it might be when they're both playing, it might be a little tougher to try to fit in a schedule, but they're going to try to do it obviously once a week and
Yeah,
as
because
much as they
they're
can.
gonna have to figure like, especially when Matthew comes back, which
Yeah,
the rumor is some point in December, like probably Christmas
exactly,
time for
exactly.
Matthew. Like
And
they'll have to do like what I do when I schedule
there
guests
you
like
go.
you and Bill Meltzer and Starkey. I look at this, I looked at the Ottawa Senators schedule and I put the Capitals right next to it, going, all right, what day's gonna work here?
exactly,
You know,
exactly.
so I
So
could see the Tkachuk brothers doing the exact same thing. They're going to put Ottawa and Florida schedules right next to each other and go, "What do you do? Hey,
yeah,
you're not playing this week, this day. I'm not playing this day. Let's record." You know, so
obviously, and I think towards the playoffs, I know nobody said anything like about it right now, but I think it'd be hard probably to do a podcast around that time period, and that might be a tough thing to do. And obviously, with everything going on around it, it might be not sure if it'd be an actual good
could
thing to do the podcast,
could
depending
you?
what's being said.
I'm going to put this out there into the ether.
Hmm.
Could you
Yep.
imagine
Hmm.
Ottawa versus Florida,
Exactly.
and on the off days of one of like the 2 weeks, they record an episode in the
Yeah,
middle of the series? That would be like you're talking about fly on the wall for Thanksgiving dinner right now at the Kachuk house. Be a fly on the wall for like that would be like the ultimate fly on the wall moment if they record a podcast in the middle of an Ottawa Florida
exactly.
series in the
See,
playoffs.
that one I would want to see actually. So yeah.
So, but I also think that the NHL probably has their PR people listening to the episodes before they go out too, because they also probably don't want things that could, potentially make the league look bad or, something like that. And that's why I also asked the question, like, how is the league potentially involved? Because, you know, you know,
Hmm.
because there are clauses in the contracts, about representing the league and stuff like that. So, it's always an interesting thing to look at. And obviously, people have compared this already to the Kelsey brothers from the NFL. Granted, Jason Kelsey is retired and Travis is still playing in, or I might have that reverse. I don't know. I don't watch American football. So,
Hmm.
um, but still, one's still playing for the Chiefs, one's retired.
Hmm.
So it's a little easier for them. Plus, with their schedule, it's always
Yeah.
different. Um, Last thing, real quick, before I let you go, sir. I
Yeah.
gotta ask. We talked about this in like the private message chat. I'm obviously wearing the Oilers' new alternate jersey. Um, this is a nice one. I got Zach Hyman. Um, the Ottawa Senators came out with a new alternate jersey. You and I talked about it briefly, and actually, you had mentioned something about like seeing the numbers because of just like the black and the gold. And then I turned on the game and I go, I see what you're talking about, but I still
Hmm.
love the jersey. I think it looks
Oh,
amazing. What are your
no.
overall thoughts on the jerseys outside of maybe visibility from the press box or even on
I,
television looking at the numbers?
I've been flip-flopping on this jersey since day one, the first time I saw the preview video for it. So when I saw the video the first time, I thought it was way too busy. I thought there's just too much going on in that video, like too much going on in the jersey. And then I see it up close for the first time. It's awesome. The way they did the coloring, and it's more innovative too. It's the embossing of the logo. And they have a little maple leaf that you can't see, but it's at the bottom of the jersey.
Oh,
There's a
it's kind of like this with the Oilers where they
Yeah,
have the little tag, and the
exactly.
Capitals did it on theirs too with the DC flag.
Yeah, they got a Parliament Hill hidden on there too. I mean, it looks real, and even the armbands are kind of not sparkly, but they kind of have the shadowing on it, and it looks
Oh,
really
like
good
the
up.
kind of like the embedding, like the Vegas jerseys.
Yes,
Yeah,
it has that, and that up close in front of your face or wearing it like you're wearing, it looks really good. But when you're afar from above, it's not as good as you think it is. But just because of the numbers actually. So it's hard to make out the numbers. If you're a fan, I've had a comment from a couple of other reporters for other teams. They said it was hard to see the numbers. They couldn't make out the players. Fortunately for us, we know who the players are on the ice, so we know who the players are. But yeah, it's so I'm still on them, but the actual jersey up close, great. From afar, maybe not so good.
yeah.
So I'm not for work value, right? So, but there's and if you go online, you'll see a lot of positive, again, not a lot of negative. Again, it's either they're very detailed or they're just too busy.
Yeah, I know before the
Yeah.
season started, I actually did an article for txhdhockey.com where I actually reviewed every jersey that was unveiled during the offseason before the season started, and I gave Ottawa's jersey glowing remarks. I love the
Mm,
detail. I love what they did with the center crest. I don't own a Senators jersey yet in my collection. Actually, that's not true. I do have one. I have the black alternate jersey to Peter Bondra because he was
mhm,
my childhood hero growing up, and I got his jersey after the Caps traded him to Ottawa. And but for one that I would wear, I would definitely buy that jersey for the collection.
mhm. Yeah.
So, but with that, Murray, it has been a pleasure. Real quick, please plug yourself. Where can the people find you on social media and Hockey
Uh,
Hot Stove?
at, at Hockey Hot Stove, hockeyhotstove.com, and at Pammer Hockey on X.
All right. And then obviously you can find this show at txhthockey.com and of course txht_hockey on all social media except for Facebook. That is txht hockey because we couldn't get the little underscore for Facebook. Somebody took it from us. So with that, this has been the More Phenomenal Hockey Show. We'll be back next week. Maybe Toro's coming back. Stay tuned for that. And until next time, we'll see you on the ice.